The Introduction of Ideology of Globalization by MANFRED STEGER. This is for educational use only. Our group is allowing our instructor, Mr. Roldan Ardines, to use this as an educational material. Good day, everyone. For today's video, we will be tackle about the Introduction of Ideology of Globalization by MANFRED STEGER. Introducing that we are the group 1 of this activity, and we have members of Decadet Tagalog King Byron, Tagalog Kendrick, Lucero Daniel, Cantiveros Ayanjan, Omongos Jill Leander, Sagrado Kercolen, Parilla Mark, Phil Wilhelm Dave, and Anoling J. Bert. And truly yours, Kambal Raymond Timothy R. For the learning objectives of this activity, we will be discuss the introduction of the study of globalization by MANFRED STEGER, and discuss the MANFRED's ideology of globalization, the Michael Frieden's sentiments, Aljor Apodorai's contribution, and lastly, the scapes of globalization.
So good day everyone, I am Decadet King Byron Tagalog, and today I'm going to discuss the definition of globalization. So from what I have researched and my own understanding, the term globalization describes the growth and intensity of social ties and consciousness throughout the globe. Economical, political, cultural, ideological, environmental, and technological factors all play a role in this multifaceted issue. So according to Manfred B. Steger, globalization is the process of enlarging the world, extending social networks and consciousness. There are three basic qualities of globalization: connectivity, mobility, and imagination. The first, connectivity, which is creation of global linkage and ties. For example, the internet. Next, the second characteristic globalization is mobility, which is quickening of flows of movements and networks. The movement business travelers is a good illustration of the mobility. The third characteristic of globalization is imagination, which is interpreted as people's growing awareness of the world as the single location and the concept of global citizenship. Next.
So what are the ideology of globalization? So it is stated there that it demonstrates how liberalism, cosmopolitanism, communitarianism, and statism. These are the four globalization-related ideologies that are currently taking shape. Each has unique collection of concepts. So this means that the rise could reinforce a rift caused by globalization, and specifically in the Western nations, that they influences a democratic politics for the years to come. And also, it influences the direction of globalization itself. So in the light fact that humanity has been struggling with similar issues in the economic, political, and social arenas, globalization is an ideology that promises to empower people all over the world. Next slide. Next slide. So to sum up the globalization as an ideology, these are the fundamental tenets of globalization, that is to expand the international trade and integrate free markets to allow for unrestricted cross-borders movement of the people, the products, and also the capital. So we call that trade liberalization and the integration of free markets over economic solutions due to the issue of economic disparity in industrialized and emerging nations. So the MANFRED STEGER explores whether globalization is an ultimately or a good or a bad thing by presenting it has a multifaceted process that encompasses the global, the regional, and the local aspects of social life. He also examines its causes and effects that determines whether it is a new phenomenon or looks its causes. Next reporter.
Good day, sir. I am Kercolin B. Sagrado, and today I'm going to discuss about the ideology of globalization by Manfred Steger. So, Manfred Steger argues that globalization has four main dimensions: First, the economic, the political, the cultural, and the ecological, with ideological aspects of each category. So, for economic dimension of globalizations, it refers to the increasing interdependence of world economies as a result of the growing scale cross-border trade of commodities and services, flow of international capital, and widespread rapid spread of technologies. So that's the economic globalization. Next is the political. So the political dimension of globalization is the intensification and expansion of political interrelations around the globe. Aspects of political globalizations include the modern nation state system and its changing place in today's world, and the role of global governance and the direction of the global political systems. So that's for the political dimensions of globalization. Next is we have the cultural dimensions of globalizations. So it refers to the transmission of ideas, meanings, and values around the world in such a way as to extend and intensify social relations. This process is marked by the common consumptions of cultures that have been diffused by the internet, popular culture media, and international travel. So that's for the cultural globalizations. So lastly, we have the ecological. So the ecological dimensions of globalization examines the effect of global alliance on ecological issues. So that's all. Next reporter, please.
So, good day everyone. I am Kendrick Tagalog and we will tackle about the types of globalism. So, according to MANFRED STEGER, there are three types of globalism. These are the ideologies that finance the concept of globalization with particular values and meanings. So, these are market globalism, justice globalism, religious globalism. So first is the market globalism. Market globalism seeks to endow globalization with free market norms and neoliberal meanings. Next is the justice globalism. Justice globalism constructs an alternative vision of globalization based on egalitarian ideals of global solidarity and distributive justice. And lastly is the religious globalism. Religious globalism struggles against both market and justice globalism as they seek to mobilize a religious values and beliefs that are thought to be under severe attack by the forces of secularism and consumerism. So next reporter.
Michael Freden. Michael Freden is a professor of politics at Oxford University and director of its Center for Political Ideologies and its professional fellow at Mansfield College of Oxford.
Basically, three types of sentiments: positive, negative, and neutral, along with more intense emotions like angry, happy, and sad, or interest, or not interested, and etiquette. Michael Freden, The Dynamics and Sentiments, The Evolution of British Liberalism, when the distinguished British historian R. G. Lingwood translated Guido de Ruggiero seminal A History of European Liberalism from Italian into English. He included in the translator preface a quotation from Lord Balfour relating to the usage of the words liberal and liberalism. Those words, observed Balfour, were used in their continental, not in their British meaning. We borrow them from abroad, and we have used them to designated a party, or rather a particular section of a particular party.
Example of sentiment is someone being so patriotic that they decorated their house with many flags from their country. The expression of delicate and sensitive feeling, especially in art and literature, tender or romantic feeling, felt strong sentiment for each other.
Michael's freedom sentiments. The trail of future revolution was set in other ways. Rebellism is also a particular narrative, a specific view of the emergence of the intellectually and morally legitimate for some political and ideological discourse. That role relates to the introduction of a rich temporal dimension into the proto-liberalism of theorists. Because that essay has doubly become one of the archetypal texts of the British, indeed modern liberalism, though it was not written as a central text for asserting the credo of liberalism. As the ideology or movement, it has attained such as standing through its interpretation by others.
I am the cadet Ayan Jan Candeveros and the cadet Anoling Gilbert Anoling. So I'm here today to talk to you about Aljor Apodaray. Arjun Apodaray is an Indian-American anthropologist recognized as a major theorist in globalization studies. In his anthropological work, he discusses the importance of the modernity of nation-state. So, Aljor Apodoray's contribution, American anthropologist Arjun Apodoraya, born 1949, is regarded as a key figure in the field of globalization studies. He analyzes the significance of globalization and nation-states modernity in his anthropological study. What Arjun Apodoraya former do? He was a former of anthropology and South Asian languages and civilization of the University of Chicago, the humanities dean at the same institution, director of the Center of Globalization program at Yale University, and a professor of education and human development study at NU STEM School of Culture.
Good day, good day, seafarers. I'm Dead Cadet Gilbert U. Anuling. I'll talk about audio paradise. So, audio paradise. 5 different scapes or flows has been used by Arjun Apodaray to examine the subjects, middlescapes, financescapes, eduscapes, tenantscapes, and internetscapes that movement of people, goods, and idea behind national lines can be thought of globalization, which demands a constructive framework for understanding in order to comprehend the dynamic social landscape which modern persons are frequently embedded in their daily lives. So, algebraize is the term eduscape describe how ideas moves. Then the term financescapes describe the movement of money behind the national boundaries. 3. The term medscapes describe the international movement of media.
Good day, everyone. I am the Cadet Mark Prolia, and here with me is the Cadet Daniel Lucero. So we are here to tackle about the scapes of globalization. So the scapes of globalization is theorized by Apodaray. So Apodoray's scapes theory starts with the idea of global cultural flow. Apodaray argues that we used to always see the world in a binary: global north versus global south, east versus west, first world versus third world, and etc. So according to Apodaray, that's too simplistic. We are not two separate worlds separated by the rich and poor, especially not now. We are in the age of globalization. Instead, Apodaray argues we all influence each other. Our cultures intersect and overlap all the time. How do cultures around the world influence each other? Well, through the 5 different dimensions of cultural flow, or as we all know, the scapes of globalization. So we heard five specific flows or scapes. The first is ethnoscape, next is technoscape, idioscape, financescape, and lastly is the mediascape. So the first is ethnoscape, which will be discussed by the cadet Daniel Lucero.
Good day, everyone. I am the Cadet Daniel Lucero, and I will be reporting my part of this topic, which tackles about the scapes of globalization. So the first scape of globalization is the ethnoscope. So ethnoscope refers to the movement of individuals across borders, while some people travel out of necessity or in search of better prospects for themselves and their family. Leisure travelers are also part of this scape. So ethnoscape refers to people, specifically those who move from one place to another, such as individuals, that includes tourists, exiles, refugees, immigrants, students studying abroad, and most especially OFWs. As people move around for any reason, so do their ideas and information. For that reason, they search for better opportunities and challenges that would satisfy their living. So the next scape will be reported by Decadent Parilla.
So the next scape is technoscape. So it is short for global arrangement and movement of all types of technologies across global boundaries. They are part of Arjun Appadurai's 5 diverse dimensions of global cultural fluxes. This section will focus on the technology that we all utilize. So the phrase technoscape refers to two distinct types. Mechanical technology is one type of technology that is anchored in physical form, such as equipment, gadgets, cars, and so on. This is the type of technological landscape that has existed so much of human history. So the other major kind of information technology, which encompasses more virtual technologies such as telecommunications and software, in its broadest sense. While components of this type of technoscape have existed for a very long time, informational technology is a relatively new idea. The next is idioscape.
So the third scape is the idioscape. Idioscape refers to the flow of thoughts. This can be done on a local basis, such as an individual sharing personal thoughts on Facebook for public consumption, or it can be done on a bigger and more systematic scale. So idioscapes are defined as mixtures of audio, text, and visuals, as well as the concepts communicated in them. Moreover, this phrase is most frequently used in reference to politically based ideologies and key terms thereof employed by governments or counter-government groups and movements aiming to assert power. For instance, consider human rights in the United States and human rights in China. So clearly, this describes the historical events and other challenges that all have an impact on idioscapes. So for the fourth scape, will be reported by Mark.
So the fourth scape is the financescape. So it refers to the movement of money across political boundaries. This phenomena, like the other flows outlined by Appadurai, has been occurring for centuries. So financescape refers to the various forms of capital and its mobility around the world for diverse objectives. So cash or electronic equivalents such as bank transfers, stocks via stocks exchanges, currencies via currency exchanges, commodity via commodity markets. And in today's time, decentralized virtual currencies such as Bitcoin via peer-to-peer processes as well as exchanges are examples. So more than that, financescapes encompasses the notion That such kind of capital travel at extraordinarily quick rates around the world, with large sums of money being exchanged, lost, and made. So lastly is the mediascape.
So the mediascape. Mediascape refers to the spread of electronic technologies, entities, or capacities that generate information as well as the information that they distribute. So in short, mediascape refers to the possible means by which information and ideas can be spread and then information they spread. In other words, it's the images, ideas, stories, and so forth that newspapers, YouTube cable, and Netflix rather spread around. So that will be all for our part. Thank you.
This is Decadet Kambal Raymond Timothy R.
Decadet, Tagalog Kendrick.
Decadet Fiel Wilhelm Dave A.
Deck Cadet King Baron Tagalog.
I'm Deck Cadet Daniel Erlicero.
Decadet Barilla.
This is Sagrado Carcolin B.
Ang Tech Cadet Jillian Drew.
We are Group 1.
We are Group 1.